Hey friend, welcome back to Bible Tract Echoes. Thank you for joining me for this week of programs. Today, of course, the last day of our week of programs, Monday through Friday. Bible Tract Echoes plays on about 110 radio stations worldwide, and I'm thankful for the fact that you are part of our listening audience. We have so many folks that care so deeply for BTI, and it means much to me that you would not only support the legacy of Dr. Paul Levine, our founder, but you'd support the team here and you'd support our mission, what we do. Just give you a little insight into why this pastor friend, his name is Jim Crone. He pastors a great church in Penfield, New York. If you're looking for a church near Rochester, I'd highly recommend Southeast Bible Baptist Church. And I love the people there. I get to be with them about once a year or so. I'll actually be speaking for their missions conference. I think it's late March, early April of 2025. But he said this: there are a number of reasons why I love BTI, but a couple of them stand out. And as I started reading this, I just realized this is going to sound self-serving. He says this: the first is Micah McCurry. He is the vehicle by which I was introduced to the ministry, and I never failed to be impressed. Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to be reading this. This is goodness. I never failed to be impressed by his humility, willingness to serve, and unfailing competence, rock-solid conservativeness, and desire to get the gospel out. I'll take the last one there, desire to get the gospel out. The rest of them, I heard a man say something like, he said that introduction, oftentimes preachers get introduced before they're going to speak by someone that knows them, and a preacher, older man of God, said that introduction was like perfume. It smells real good, but Lord help you if you swallow it. And that's how I feel. Pastor Crone is very kind to me. He said, he, speaking of myself, is forward-thinking and sees opportunities that others miss. In my view, BTI has taken on those attributes as he has led it, or perhaps has kept those attributes. He said, I did not know BTI before Micah, and I can say, knowing my predecessor, Pastor Mark Smith, yes, this was the leaning of the ministry already. And yes, the Lord has allowed me to come alongside and be a part of it. But I'm going to be very careful to point out that I didn't ask him what to say. I didn't tell him what to say when he wrote this. These are his thoughts, and I appreciate them. And looking back, I should have read it before I read it here on the air. But he said this, and maybe this is what I want to get to. The second reason I love BTI is the service that this ministry accomplishes, whether that shows up in the helpfulness of the staff, and I can speak to that being true, to help meet a church's needs, or in its main purpose of getting the gospel out. It is noticeable. The stories of the gospel going around the world are inspiring. In that light, I appreciate that the gospel gets a good presentation from BTI. Here, I am speaking both about the quality of the content of the tracts and the quality of the tracts. They take the extra time and effort to make sure there is nothing that could hinder the gospel in their products. And we are excited about the opportunity to invest and support BTI. And their church does support BTI, and I'm very thankful for that. And I apologize. I should have just skipped over that entire first part and just skipped down to what he talks about BTI. But in truth, I'm humbled that I have friends that are kind enough to go on record saying that, though I don't think all of it's true. Why? I want flustered, I guess, want to move on. Why do I travel so much? That's something that I addressed in our latest newsletter. I had a pastor, dear friend, and I'm going to get to this in just a moment. Basically, he asked why the international travel. Is it necessary? And this long-time supporting pastor, you got to realize, we have so many folks, individuals and churches that support this ministry, and this pastor has been supporting, his church has been supporting for a long time. He asked this great question. He had seen our newsletters and prayer letters and noticed that I often travel domestically and internationally, far afield, and often he asked why I travel so much worldwide, and if there are more efficient ways for BTI funds to be used. And that's an incredibly great question. I welcome those questions. If you have a question about something we're doing at BTI, I'm not going to just write you off. Now, it helps if you have a good attitude about your question, like this pastor did, but in all sincerity, there is a grain of truth in every critique. I want to be very careful to give this pastor, number one, the fact that he's spent a lifetime in ministry serving God. He knows more than I do. He's probably forgotten more than I've ever known. I want to be very careful to take the question and ponder it, to wrap my head around it, make sure I am not wrong. And so I spent some time. I said here in a newsletter that I'm so thankful for this friend of our ministry and his willingness to ask a question like this. What a blessing it is to have supporters who care enough to invest in our ministry and stay abreast of what we do with God's people's money. In addition, get this now, I find it challenging to answer unasked questions. I can't answer you if you don't ask me a question. And so I'm grateful that this pastor felt comfortable enough to ask. My three-part answer was as follows. Number one, about half the time that I've traveled overseas, I've been requested, and my travel costs have been paid by another church or ministry that I have the privilege to minister to while on the foreign field. So obviously, if we cut my international travel in half of it, as a general rule, yearly, this is about true. Obviously, this arrangement alleviates concerns about spending BTI funds, since BTI is being reimbursed for my travel in about 50% of the occasions. And so he totally understood that, and that made much more sense to him. And so that by itself, he's looking at me, and I get it. A young evangelist traveling, how is he? And that's a really good question that not everyone feels about me and should, like Pastor Jim Crone does. How is he so busy? And part of that is because half of it is paid for by other ministries, and so it's not just coming out of BTI. But let's talk about the other 50%. Number two, accountability is another significant reason I travel internationally. We often print tens of thousands, sometimes millions of tracts abroad. And this arrangement means we must have, what I mean abroad is, we print them on the foreign field, on the local economy. This arrangement means we must have a deep and abiding trust in the co-laborers who work on our behalf in faraway places. Often, the only way to be completely confident is by meeting in person. And I prefer meeting on their home turf, so I can see everything with my own eyes. If we, as the ministry, if we are going to pay to do work on another field, then I want to know the person through whom we are working, because I don't speak Swahili, I don't speak Burmese. We have to have people we work through. Even if it's just a printer that we are contracting with, I want to make sure that we are getting what we are paying for. And I'd rather, if we're going to pay for someone to travel, I'd rather go there and meet them in their place instead of them just coming here with a nice pitch deck or PowerPoint presentation and telling me all the nice things they're going to do on the other side of the world. So I prefer meeting on their home turf so I can see everything with my own eyes. We at BTI, and myself as the buck stops here type situation as the director of the ministry, we have a weighty responsibility to our partners and take our obligation to pinch every penny seriously. Number three. So number one, half the time it's paid for by others, and so it's not BTI money, if you want to call it that. Number two, accountability. Number three, my position as the director of BTI is more than just managing the production and shipping of tracts. I have a world-spanning duty to not only promote the use of tracts and raise funds, but I also have a God-given burden to preach and enlist Christians to the Great Commission. I'm not just saying that I must go preach, I must use BTI funds to go preach on the other side of the world. What I'm saying is this, get this, what I see overseas impacts and enhances my ability to communicate the worldwide need for BTI's mission and the Bible command to go ye. It's hard for me to talk about the dire need in Kenya and Burma if I've never seen it. I think of Acts chapter 4, verse 20. For we cannot but speak the things which we have seen and heard. And Lamentations 3:51 also comes to mind. Mine eye affecteth mine heart because of all the daughters of my city. And if you have questions, I want to hear from you. Maybe there's something that you'd like clarified from what I talked about today. Maybe you have a follow-up question. Maybe you have a support, or maybe you have a denial of a reason I gave and you don't think the reason I gave was good enough. I want to hear from you. Please reach out. There's so many ways. The announcer at the conclusion of the program is going to tell you all the ways you can contact me, but you can also text me directly. You can get right into my phone. You can text me at 309-316-7240. Again, that's 309-316-7240. I want to hear from you. If you have a question, maybe international travel wasn't your question, but you have something else that you want to ask about, I want to hear from you. I sincerely desire to hear your take on something. I do not think I'm the font of all wisdom. I do not think I know how everything should go. I disagree with myself half the time. So I want to hear from you. And as I said, every critiques and criticism, correction, they are there to make you better. And as my father-in-law says, our answer, our response should be, bring it on. And that's my desire. If I fail, my desire is to fail forward and fail fast. If there are 9,999 ways not to make a light bulb, I want to get through the failure of the first 9,999 quickly, because the 10,000th way is the one way to make a light bulb. That's my desire. And so if you have some idea about how our ministry could be done better, how it could be administrated better, could we have better customer service? Could our tracts be better? Could our communication with our partners be better? All of these things, these are things I consider all the time, but I'm not perfect, and no one on our staff is. So I'd encourage you, if you have a thought, I want to hear from you desperately. Text me at 309-316-7240. And here's a mistake that we're going to rectify in the future. I'm not going to read exceedingly nice things about myself on the air again, no matter how much I appreciate Pastor Jim Crone for saying them. Brother Crone, thank you so much for lending a little editorial license to the broadcast today. I'd ask you, if you would, tune in next week to Bible Tract Echoes. Go to BibleTractsInc.org, BibleTractsInc.org. Order some of Your Decision 2024, Your Decision 2024, this Gospel Tract limited edition. We need to get them out. Honestly, I'd like to ship all of them by the 1st of October if we can. So get yours today, BibleTractsInc.org. Tune in next week to Bible Tract Echoes. My prayer, as always, is simply this, that you have a great day for His glory, and we will plan on talking to you soon. Thank you so very much for listening. Send me your feedback here in the near future as the announcer comes on. God bless.
Thank you for joining us today for Bible Tract Echoes, a ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. If you would like to receive a free sample booklet of all of our tracts, you can contact us by calling 309-828-6888. That's 309-828-6888. Our mailing address is P.O. Box 130, Dwight, Illinois 60420. A faster way to contact us is to go to our website at BibleTractsInc.org. That's BibleTractsInc.org. There you will find more information about our ministry and details on how you can support Bible Tracts Incorporated. Thanks for listening, and may the Lord richly bless you as you serve Him.